What happens when we block the process of individuation for ourselves? Now, this is much more common than we might actually think. Most people go through this process of actually blocking their individuation process unconsciously without even really acknowledging that they're doing this. Now, let's think of why this might actually happen. This often happens for most people because what we do is we choose to sell our unique creativity, our unique approach to life, our personality in its full embodiment for the sake of conforming to the status quo, conforming to the rules and regulations of modern Western society when it comes to either fulfilling certain demands of financial capital or trying to fit into what is desired just simply by the rules and regulations of life itself, right? And when we do this, we usually give our all to it because it usually comes with a promise. Now, think of the American dream. The American dream is like this capitalism promise of success and fulfillment, right? That really doesn't have much to do with your personality, but more to do with finance, more to do with success in that sense of the word, or in that sense of life. And it hasn't really got much to do with, embodying your personality and being the most authentic individual you can so that you can fully integrate these parts of yourself so that you don't become, so that you don't develop certain mental health issues and stuff like this. But instead it's about, start working a 9 to 5, do all these things, make sure that you have a successful career so that you can make money, so that you can, invest your life into these certain aspects of what is demanded by you from society and all of this type of stuff. And then in doing that, you kind of lose yourself to some extent. You end up being this person wrapped up in a suit, going to your business job or going to your specific career that has got to have these certain regulations in place, and you're constantly chasing and running after the time that you only have slotted to you within the day to try and fulfill all of these demands that your boss is basically demanding you to fulfill. And at the end of the day, you do that for 20 years and you then bang, you hit a midlife crisis, as so many people often complain about. And that midlife crisis is all rooted in this fundamental problem of basically sacrificing your personality for the status quo, for the promises of fulfillment that society is saying you're going to achieve, right? But what happens is when we hit that midlife crisis, that is the point of realization where no, we do not get fulfillment from selling ourselves out to what society has promised us. We do not get fulfillment on a soul level, on a spirit level, on a level of purpose, on a level of meaning when it comes to this kind of stuff. So what happens in replacement of that? Because ultimately, we do have a fundamental tendency to want to individuate. It's a compulsive urge. We have an urge within us to self-realize. And it's always existed. And the more we neglect that, the more we're going to fall into some sort of neurotic, either develop neurotic holding patterns, neurotic mental kind of processes, or through compulsiveness. And those things, those compulsive behavior patterns, are going to actually replace our natural tendency to, in a healthy way, actually fulfill our self-realization journey, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you had a man whose fundamental nature was that of creation, that of creativity. He was a musician. He grew up, he loved listening to music. He loved doing all of this kind of stuff. So he'd write his own songs. And then when he became around, let's say about 18, 19, 20, the full responsibility and well, let's not say responsibility, but let's say the demands of society and direction and guidance of society was saying to this young man, look, you need to make money. You need to figure out how to do this. You need to do, I would recommend you go into finance. I'd recommend you go into some sort of financial career or something like this. And, you know, his parents are saying the same thing. You know, you need to make money. You need to be able to bring in money if you want to have a family, all this type of stuff. And then what happens is that he just completely drops that passion within him that makes up most of his personality, that makes up most of his desire within the world. And then when he does that, how does he deal with that complete rejection or oppression of his personality? He goes towards drugs. He goes towards promiscuity. He goes towards drinking, alcoholism, going out on the weekends, trying to fulfill that creative passion of urge within him that he has rejected, that he actually truly wants to express through his own manifestation of art. But now, because it's become a compulsion or become a repressed part of himself, he goes towards these other vices of, you could say, lustfulness. You could say that kind of replicate this kind of sense of creativity in his mind. He goes towards that, and then he just manifests behaviors through those things to try and fulfill that desire of creativity that he has within him that he's repressed, right? And this is just one example, right? Because there's many ways we can look at this. There's many ways. We can just simply look at someone who's compulsive, someone who's a workaholic, someone that has no patience, someone who is extremely competitive beyond the necessity for competitiveness. Why is someone like this? Exactly. You know, they have fallen into the dream of fulfillment that the status quo promises them, right? Through their job, that you're going to be fulfilled through your job. So what happens is they develop this compulsiveness because they have that desire for individuation, but they simply just misplace it and put it into the conforming pattern that they have accepted of their job. And they are trying to find individuation through their job, which they won't find, because instead what happens is they develop patterns of compulsiveness like workaholism and workaholic tendencies that actually just leads them into burnout and further away from their actual true path as an individual, because they're not accepting their full personality. They're not trying to embrace the parts of themselves that they have repressed and pushed away. So this is what happens, right? You have people who are workaholics, you have people who have these bad habits, these tendencies to do things that are not actually good for them, that they don't really want to do, but they do to just escape reality because they don't like what they've put themselves into. You have individuals like this. And the reason why they're like that is because they've sold out to a certain agenda that society has sold them. They've sold out to a way of life that has promised them all sorts of glories and ambitions and successes, but really they've just become cogs in a machine. They've just become slaves of some sort of kind that need the entertainment of brain circuses at the weekend to satisfy to some extent, satisfy themselves so that they don't completely lose their minds. And this is all because we sell our personalities, our full embrace of our personalities, for this kind of mediocrity, for this mediocre sense of accomplishment, financial accomplishment, status accomplishment, power of some kind, right? That is manufactured by corporatism, you know? And this is not something that's good for us. And that's the reason why we have so many mental health issues. And this is kind of what Carl Jung was saying, was that we have an urge for individuation, but we sell it out to something else. The mind of the psyche of the civilized man is like a self-regulatory system that only ends in self-injury. You know, this is what he said. It doesn't self-regulate to the point of completion or acceptance or wholeness, but just to self-injury. That's where you get workaholism or workaholic attitudes, behaviors, all this type of stuff. So we just injure ourselves because we have cut a big part of ourselves off that actually kept us and made us real. So what we have to do is we have to realign towards what that was. What was the thing that we've completely disowned within ourselves? Because we, by the words of authority said that, this isn't actually valuable. How many people who could have been artists, could have been people who made different forms of art, music, sculptures, poetry, literary writers, critics, whatever it might have been, right? Musicians, all those people that just abandoned that ambition because they were just told by society that it's not valuable. But the society that's telling you that that is not valuable is a society that is going to die anyways because they don't see the value in culture. They're utilitarians. They're like, oh, we're just going to build brutalist architecture because we think that's going to be best for the society we live in, because we don't actually realize that the people that live in society can only truly be efficient when they are faced and immersed within something that makes them alive, something that inspires them with passion. They forget about that. So this society is going to fall to the ashes anyway, right? It's going to burn to the ashes. Unless we infuse it with some sort of cultural beauty. Have traditionalism, some sort of aesthetic beauty of some kind, some sort of creative impulse to represent the zeitgeist we are in, the era of transition that we are in, or something like this. But if you are someone who is fundamentally experiencing some sort of compulsiveness within their life, developing compulsive behavior tendencies, if that is something you feel you've fallen into, right? You need to understand, try and think in relation to your past. What is it that you've pushed away that made you inspired, that made you human? That didn't make you a machine, but made you human, made you passionate about something. And how can you reintegrate that into your life now? Because I'd say most of the time when it comes to this type of stuff, I'd say we have a fundamental urge to individuate and self-actualize. That's why people always say, what is the meaning to life? What is the meaning? Nihilists would frame it as like, oh, this is an existential crisis. We don't know, but really the meaning is subjective. The subjective is the objective. Your meaning is the meaning. Because your creativity, your passion is what brings meaning into your life. And if you want to replace that, if you want to sell that out for some other promised utopia that society is selling you, then you're not going to obviously reach any meaning for your life, right? It's going to just be mediocre, and you're going to know it's going to be mediocre right down at the root of your heart when you do even achieve it. If you ever achieve it, the thing that society promises you, right? But, yeah, so that's the fundamental thing that you need to try and figure out is, what is it that I've rejected within myself that made me passionate? How can I reintegrate that? So that I don't develop these compulsive desires to try and achieve individuation through these mediocre ways of life that are not really truly aligned to you. And trying to figure that out would be extremely important. And there's ways to figure this out. This is why I do the coaching. The coaching, it helps people try and look through their past experiences where they may have turned the wrong corner, either with bad habits through a certain experience, through a certain trauma. Why do they have certain intrusive thoughts? How can we break those down? How can we overcome these certain bad behavior patterns to replace them with good ones so it aligns more towards that individual's purpose? This is the type of stuff I work on with people. And if you are interested with doing that with me, and you resonate with this video that I'm talking about here with regards to individuation and being more aligned towards our purpose and our meaning and what actually makes us want to be alive and want to do things in this life, then do book in a free one-on-one coaching call with me. I can talk to you about some of the techniques that I do and use to help people on my coaching program, which is mostly an anti-procrastination coaching program, because a lot of this kind of stuff does root itself into procrastination. So if you are interested in doing that and having a quick chat with me and having just a good conversation on this kind of stuff, then do book in that free call. We can plan out a system for you that will help you, and we can go from there. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll speak to you in the next one.